And you can use your initials, your full name.
Brianna Mitello.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
Your Honor, my name is Brianna Mitello, and I appear before you today not only as a grieving mother, but also an advocate for justice. On behalf of my son, Cory, I stand here before you to plead for justice that Cory rightfully deserves, and to press for the maximum sentence of Christopher Gregor, whose actions have inflicted irreparable harm in our lives. For you to fully understand the gravity of the situation, I will flash back to the July of 2013. This day marks the beginning of a traumatic journey defined by manipulation, abuse, and ultimately an unspeakable loss. At 16, I first met the defendant, who was 21 at the time. He proceeded to feed me drugs, alcohol, and took complete advantage of me, which led to the conception of Cory. From day one of my pregnancy, I knew I would keep Cory, regardless of the way he was conceived. Cory didn't ask to be brought into this world, and I knew I owed it to him to bring him into this world with unconditional love. Cory was and still is my life, my world, and my everything. I would also like to speak about my past, which I am not 100% proud of. You heard a lot about it throughout the trial, and so did a lot of the world. It was very upsetting for that to come out because I've worked extremely hard for many years to be where I am today. I admit I abused drugs, but during the trial it was made out that for some reason my son deserved to be killed because his mom was a drug addict. That is absolutely disgusting.
This is a powerful and emotionally charged moment because Brianna is addressing something that often appears in criminal trials: attacks on a witness's past credibility. From her perspective, she's drawing a clear distinction between her past struggles and the value of her son's life. No matter where viewers stand on the case, this statement underscores a central question. Should a parent's past ever diminish the pursuit of justice for a child?
I stand here today, clean and sober, and I know Cory would be so proud of me. Unfortunately, my son is no longer here to tell his story, so I'm here to be his voice and tell his story along with all the others sitting in the gallery who have continued to stand by me. Not once have you seen the defendant shed a tear for Cory in the last 3.5 years since he killed him. And today was fake. I don't believe a word he said, and I don't accept any apologies. He has no remorse for any of the actions he committed. And his only remorse, like you saw today, was for himself because he got caught and convicted. Another reason I could think of is, everything he had done to Cory was done out of spite towards me. Another reason I could think of is he's sick in the head and used Cory as his punching bag. On April 2nd of 2021, it was not the first time that he abused Cory, but it was the last time. He never had an ounce of love for Cory. And to the defendant, Cory was just an inconvenience in his life. He never hugged him. He never praised him. He never told him he was proud of him or that he did a good job. He punished Cory every chance that he could get, and I cannot even begin to imagine what my son dealt with behind closed doors with this man. On April 2nd of 2021, I hesitantly dropped Cory off at the defendant's home, which is a mistake that will haunt me for the rest of my life. I kissed my son goodbye unknowingly for the last time. I wish I knew what was going to happen and I would never let him go. At 3 p.m. the same day, I received a phone call from the defendant where he stated Cory was very sick and he was taking him to the hospital, and then hung up on me after he asked for my insurance card. As an extremely concerned mother, I called him back with no answer.
Imagine receiving that knock at the door just hours after saying goodbye to your child. This is the moment where the victim impact statement shifts from courtroom testimony to raw human tragedy. For many people watching, this is where the scale of the loss becomes impossible to ignore. What do you think is the most devastating part of her account so far?
They continued to do so along with texts for hours to find out where Cory was and what was going on. For those few hours, my mother and I called every hospital in the area with no luck. The very last hospital finally said he was there. Then there was a knock on the door. It was our local police there to tell me Cory had passed away. My healthy 6-year-old boy who was just alive as well with me a few hours ago is dead. My heart dropped and my whole body collapsed from the shock that took over my whole body. I was unable to breathe. My mind was racing, and I felt like I was no longer inside my body. All I remember is screaming that they had the wrong child because Cory was fine this morning. I actually convinced myself that it wasn't him and they had the wrong kid for a while. My next question was, where is Chris? I needed to know what happened, and he was nowhere to be found until the next day, when I found out he was in Tennessee. No one was able to tell me what happened to Cory except Cory died at the hospital. I couldn't even see my son until a week later at his funeral because his body was evidence. The defendant took away my chance to say goodbye to Cory while he was passing away, and not once did he pick up the phone he was using.
Notice how she's not only describing the day her son died, she's describing the years that followed. Victim impact statements often play a major role at sentencing because courts consider not just the crime itself, but the lasting consequences for surviving family members. Here, she's painting a picture of grief that didn't end in a single day. It became a permanent part of daily life.
To converse with many of his girlfriends, to call 911, to seek medical attention, which could have potentially saved Cory's life. Instead, he allowed Cory to suffer silently for hours. Once he realized how bad it was, he threw him in the car and then proceeded to drive 15 minutes to the hospital. He slowly walked Cory into the hospital with no sense of urgency, even when he knew how bad his condition was. I fully believe that if we took Cory to the hospital as soon as he received the lethal blow, he could still be here today. There were many steps he could have taken to save my son's life. Instead, he sat home and let Cory slowly die for hours. Every day since April 2nd has been an absolute living nightmare, and it is now the new reality for me to replay Cory's horrific death repeatedly in my head. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning, and the last thing I think about before I fall asleep at night. I dread normal conversation with people, because I always get asked, how many kids do you have? I say 2, and they follow up asking how old are they. That's when the grief sinks in, and I have to tell them my 6-year-old was killed by his father. It is such an indescribable feeling. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, a sense of guilt was all I could feel. I wanted more kids, but how do I love another child? Is it fair to Cory? That is all I could think about. Now I know this is not true, and I love my daughter with all my heart, but I always will feel an emptiness, no matter how many children I have. My new reality is explaining to my daughter what happened to her big brother and why is he not here. I live in fear every day, every second of the day, that something will happen to my daughter, and I will lose her too. It's a horrible feeling, and it causes me such bad anxiety. I take her to the cemetery to see Cory every weekend, and at 1.5 years old, she knows where Cory is.
These aren't really questions expecting answers. They're expressions of a search for meaning after a devastating loss. In many victim impact statements, family members wrestle publicly with the same issue, trying to understand why something happened when there may never be an explanation that feels sufficient. It's one of the most emotionally intense moments you'll see in a sentencing hearing.
Buried. It is every week. It is heartbreaking. She sits and plays with the cars and toys we left there for him. I live in a nightmare, and I would never wish this feeling or how I must live on my worst enemy. Throughout everything he did to Cory, Cory still loved him. He looked up to you, and he still wanted to be, I'm sorry. And he still wanted him to be like a real father who treated him like a son. Instead of being a good role model for Cory, he decided to beat him to death. Why? Were you jealous of him? Did you hate me so much that you took it out on Cory? Were you abused as a child?
There's a legal point worth noting here. A defendant has an absolute right to go to trial and maintain innocence, and exercising that right cannot itself be punished. But from the family's perspective, A lengthy trial can mean repeatedly reliving painful events and confronting evidence they might otherwise never have seen. That tension between legal rights and emotional impact is often one of the hardest realities in criminal court.
Not that that's a good excuse, because you could have overcome it and became the protector he needed as a child, but instead you became a killer. There was no amount of love in his actions, and only a disturbing amount of hate. It seems like he hated Cory simply because I loved him, and he felt deprived of that love. He couldn't even control himself for long because after the first visit with my son, he started abusing him. My son didn't even know him, and he was beating him. He was abusing him from the first time. I thank God. I hate you for not letting me say goodbye to my son, but I thank God your face is not the last one he saw. I'm sorry. What this monster did was pathetic, disgusting, and I wish him nothing but the worst. One could only hope that karma comes to him quickly. After all he's done, you would hope he'd admit what he's done, but no. Instead of grieving, I had to fight for justice for 3 long years. Go to trial just to relive everything. I had to see that video that I never wanted to see. I didn't have to see it until 2 weeks before this trial. I went 3 years without seeing it. Oh, I'm sorry. Just for you to be found guilty anyway. What was the point of that? Just to make it worse for us? Are you that crazy that you convinced yourself you didn't do this? I hate you. I will never forgive you.
This is the culmination of her argument for the maximum sentence. She's asking the court to look not only at what was lost in the present, but at an entire lifetime that will never be lived. Sentencing hearings frequently focus on accountability, but moments like this remind everyone in the courtroom why these proceedings carry such enormous emotional weight. As the judge prepares to hear sentencing arguments, the question becomes, how heavily will this statement influence the final decision?
And I'm going to skip that one. You have stolen my full potential at happiness. And I will never have my son back. My family will never feel whole again. My daughter will never get to meet her brother. And my boyfriend will never get to be the father that the defendant should have been to our son. He took my whole world away from me. He has shown and proven to be that special kind of dirtbag he claimed I was. Your Honor, all this monster had to do was say he did not want to be a father. No one would have made him. I would have happily continued to raise my son alone with the help of my family. He had many opportunities not to do this to him. He is in this current situation due to his own actions, and every day he will have to live with this. He deserves nothing less than to experience the pain, suffering, and isolation that he inflicted on Cory. I hope that every moment he spends in prison is haunted by the torment of knowing he killed my child. I fear when Christopher Gregor gets out of jail, whenever that is, he will come after my family and I again. I fear for our lives. His twisted mind truly thinks that I caused all this and that he's in jail because of me, even though he's here because he killed him. I truly believe if he ever gets out and gets the opportunity, he will kill me. Your Honor, Cory should be going into 5th grade in September, hanging out with his friends, playing sports and enjoying his life. Instead, he will never experience finding his first girlfriend, graduating high school, falling in love, driving a car, getting married, or having kids. Christopher robbed him of his entire future, and Cory could have easily lived until he was 80 years old. He stole over 70 years from Cory and thousands of memories he could have made. I will never see my son again. I miss him and I love him so much. There are countless reasons Christopher deserves the maximum sentence. He rejected what I considered a generous plea deal, which shows how selfish and ignorant he is as a person. I beg you to not allow this injustice to continue, and he must face the full consequences of his actions. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Your Honor.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Ms. Linton.
Your Honor, the state would move for imposition of sentence. I don't know if